Hello, guys. Welcome you all to the Insights into Books podcast. Before we start, kindly follow or subscribe us to get updated. Now, let's start today's discussion, guys. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something, well, incredibly fundamental. It's something we all do constantly without thinking, breathing. But what if I told you that this simple act, this subconscious process, actually holds some surprising keys to our health? What if it's like a lost art, and rediscovering it could genuinely change things for you? I'm really fascinated by this.
It's absolutely crucial, and you're right. It's massively overlooked. Breathing is automatic, of course. It keeps us alive. But the way we breathe, that's changed a lot over centuries, and honestly, often not for the better. So this deep dive, it's about reclaiming that vital function, moving beyond just, surviving towards really thriving. And what's fascinating is that we're talking about stuff that's both ancient wisdom, practices documented thousands of years ago, and also cutting-edge science, which is now, interestingly, backing up a lot of those old ideas. It's a powerful mix.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The basic idea itself is pretty striking. You're suggesting that the very thing keeping us alive, breathing, most of us are doing it wrong, and that this is silently messing with our health. It sounds almost unbelievable, doesn't it?
That's a bit counterintuitive, I know. Because it's so basic, right?
Yeah.
But the central claim, and there's a lot of observation behind it, is that modern humans, well, we've largely lost the knack for breathing correctly. And this has widespread negative impacts on health. And we're not just talking about something passive here. Breathing, done right, is an active process. It unlocks huge physiological benefits. Done wrong.
Yeah.
Well, the detrimental effects just add up over time. Think about the sheer volume for a second. The average person takes, about 25,000 breaths every single day.
25,000. Yeah.
And over a lifetime, that's something like 670 million breaths.
670 million.
Exactly. With every single one of those breaths, you're taking in countless molecules interacting with everything inside you and outside you. So if even a small fraction of those nearly 700 million breaths are suboptimal, you can imagine the cumulative impact. It's huge. It's this quiet, pervasive crisis, really.
That number really puts it in perspective, makes the quality of each breath seem critical.
Yeah.
So are you saying human evolution has actually gone backwards here? You mentioned de-evolution.
In a very real sense, yes. That's the idea. De-evolution just means change over time, and that change isn't always progress, right? It can be detrimental. And when it comes to breathing, our species has definitely undergone changes that are frankly bad for our health. It's kind of sad, but we're actually among the worst breathers in the entire animal kingdom.
Seriously, worst breathers. How did that happen?
A big part of it is anatomical. Over the last few centuries, the human mouth and our whole facial structure really has gotten smaller, more restricted.
Our mouths are smaller. How does something like that affect our breathing? That seems like a massive shift.
It has a surprisingly massive impact, yeah. See, with less space in the jaw, our teeth don't have room to grow in properly. They end up crooked, misaligned, overcrowded.
Oh, okay.
And we see that today, right? Something like over 90% of people now have some degree of crooked teeth.
Right, that's really common.
But it's not just cosmetic. It signals a deeper issue with how our faces are developing. Smaller jaws means smaller nasal cavities, narrower airways.
I see.
It just makes it physically harder to breathe properly through your nose, which, as we'll get into, is absolutely crucial. And this kind of challenges the old idea that crooked teeth are just genetics, Genetics plays a role, sure, but it looks like lifestyle factors, especially diet, have had a much bigger impact on how our jaws developed.
That's a really different perspective. Is there solid evidence for this? Like historical evidence showing these anatomical changes happened relatively quickly?
Oh, absolutely. And it's pretty compelling stuff. Researchers have looked at ancient human skulls, from places like the Paris catacombs.
Right, with all those skeletons.
Exactly. Millions of them. Some going back hundreds, even thousands of years. And those ancient skulls, they consistently show perfectly straight teeth, wide dental arches, and really noticeable wide open nasal apertures. Clear airways. Now compare that to more recent skulls, even ones from, say, the early 1800s, cholera victims. They already show the beginnings of this shift. Smaller jaws, more crowded teeth, less space.
So you can literally see the change over just a few centuries.
You really can. It strongly suggests a pretty rapid anatomical change linked to lifestyle, not just slow genetic drift. You can walk through history in those catacombs and see this de-evolution. right there in the bones.
That's fascinating, but also
Yeah.
a bit unsettling.
Yeah.
So it's not just that we learn to breathe improperly, but our actual physical structure makes it harder now. If you're listening, you might be doing this suboptimal breathing and not even know it because it's just normal now.
Precisely. That's why it's a silent crisis. Breathing is so automatic, so subconscious, we just don't think about it unless there's a problem like asthma or something. But its impact, it touches everything: sleep quality, focus, heart health, even your mood. It's truly a foundational piece of the wellness puzzle that we've kind of misplaced.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. If our breathing is flawed, what's the absolute first, most important step to fix it, to get back to breathing right? And why is breathing through the nose just so much better than using your mouth?
The nose, it's the absolute gateway. Prioritizing nasal breathing is, without a doubt, the most crucial first step. Your nose isn't just for smelling roses, you know. It's an incredibly sophisticated piece of biological engineering.
Yeah.
I sometimes call it a silent warrior because it does so much without us noticing. It's like a gatekeeper, a pharmacist, and a weather vane all rolled into one.
Gatekeepers, pharmacists, weather vane. Okay, that's a cool way to put it. Break that down for us. What do those roles actually do for our health?
Sure. So as a gatekeeper, think about the inside of your nose. It's lined with these complex structures called turbinates. They're constantly moving, believe it or not, advancing over 5 millimeters a minute.
Well,
And then you have these microscopic hairs, cilia, beating incredibly fast, like 16 times a second. Together, they form this amazing filter. They trap dust, pollen, bacteria, viruses, all that gunk in the air before it reaches your lungs.
right, like an air purifier.
Exactly. But it also acts like a conditioner. It warms and humidifies the air, getting it to the perfect temperature and moisture level for your lungs, prevents irritation, makes gas exchange way more efficient. Then, as a pharmacist, this is really cool, your nasal sinuses, especially the pituitary sinus, produce nitric oxide.
Nitric oxide.
Yeah.
It's like laughing gas.
No, different nitric oxide. This one's a powerful vasodilator. That means it widens your blood vessels.
Oh.
And that's critical. Wider vessels mean better blood circulation, which means more oxygen gets delivered to all your cells and tissues. Plus, this nitric oxide is vital for immune function, fighting infections, regulating weight, mood, even sexual function.
Really? From the nose?
Yep. And here's the kicker. Just breathing through your nose consistently can boost your body's supply of this stuff by up to 6 times, allowing your body to absorb maybe 18% more oxygen compared to mouth breathing.
18% more oxygen just by using your nose. That's significant.
It's huge. And finally, as a weather vane, the nose regulates the airflow. It creates a bit of resistance. This slows your breath down naturally, making it steadier, more controlled, more rhythmic, which optimizes how your lungs work and promotes a more balanced state overall. So yeah, it's a seriously sophisticated system.
That's an incredible design. So, okay, if the nose is this amazing silent warrior, what happens when we bypass it? What are the actual real-world health problems that come from habitually breathing through the mouth?
Oh, the consequences are significant and they really stack up. Chronic mouth breathing leads to a whole cascade of issues. One of the biggest, sleep disturbances, snoring, obstructive sleep apnea, really common in mouth breathers.
Right, that affects a lot of people.
And these things wreck your deep sleep. Deep sleep is when your body does its major repairs.
Right.
If you don't get enough, your pituitary gland doesn't release enough vasopressin.
Vasopressin, what does that do?
It's the hormone that tells your cells to hold on to water overnight, so you don't get thirsty or need to pee. Without enough deep sleep, less vasopressin, your kidneys release more water, boom, thirst, waking up to go to the bathroom multiple times.
That connection makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who struggle with that.
Yeah, and I've heard stories even from researchers involved in this who completely stopped having sleep apnea, stopped needing to pee at night, just by consciously taping their mouths shut and forcing nasal breathing. It's powerful.
Wow. That's more than just annoying snoring then. It's affecting hormones and basic bodily functions.
Mm-hmm.
Does it go beyond sleep? I think I read it can impact your heart, even how you look.
Absolutely. The effects spread wide. Chronic mouth breathing is strongly linked to cardiovascular problems. We're talking higher blood pressure, poor heart rate variability, that's a measure of your nervous system's adaptability, and just generally higher stress levels. Your body is constantly in a low-grade stress state. And yes, visibly, it can change your facial structure, especially if it starts young. There's something called adenoid face, long, narrow face, receding chin, often an open mouth posture. It happens because the lack of proper airflow and tongue position affects how the facial bones and jaw actually grow. It's a physical sign of breathing dysfunction.
I remember reading about that experiment where people deliberately mouth breathed What happened to them? That sounded intense.
Oh, that was incredibly telling. Showed just how fast and how bad the effects are. Yeah, they plugged their noses, forced mouth breathing for 10 days straight.
10 days, yeah.
Yeah, and the results were dramatic. One subject's blood pressure shot up into stage 2 hypertension, like 20 points higher.
Just from mouth breathing.
Yep. Both developed severe snoring. One guy snored for like 4 hours a night, and obstructive sleep apnea kicked in. They felt exhausted, anxious, mentally foggy, just awful.
And did it reverse?
Instantly. As soon as they went back to nasal breathing, all those negative markers improved significantly and quickly. It was undeniable proof. The way you breathe matters profoundly, and your body responds fast.
That really drives the point home.
Yeah,
so
that.
for someone listening now, maybe realizing, uh-oh, I think I mouth breathe a lot.
Right.
What can they actually do? Any specific practices?
Definitely. Besides just trying to be mindful, keep your mouth closed when you're not talking or eating, specific techniques really help train the system. Alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana, in yoga is fantastic.
How did that work?
Simple, really. You close one nostril, inhale through the open one, close that one, exhale through the first one, then reverse. It's proven to improve lung function, lower blood pressure, lower heart rate, and critically, it calms that sympathetic stress response, helps shift you into that calmer rest and digest state. It actively trains your nose.
So the bottom line here seems pretty clear. Your nose is built for breathing. Use it. It could genuinely transform your health in ways you wouldn't even expect. It's about getting back to the design specs.
Right, exactly that. Reclaiming the body's intended, optimized design. Consciously fixing a function we've let slide. The nose is vital. Neglecting it has a real cost.
Okay, so we've established where the air should go, the nose. But what about how we breathe? The rhythm, the pace. That plays a huge role too, doesn't it? Is there such a thing as a perfect breath? And why is just slowing down so powerful?
That's the next critical piece, absolutely. The quality, the rhythm, the depth, just as important as the pathway. Now, perfect might be a strong word, depends on the person, the situation. But research points very strongly to an optimal rhythm for most adults at rest. And that rhythm is roughly 5.5 seconds for the inhale and 5.5 seconds for the exhale.
5.5 in, 5.5 out. That's specific.
It is. It works out to about 5.5 breaths per minute, taking in about 5.5 liters of air per minute for an average adult. And it's not random. This specific rate tends to be the sweet spot for optimizing respiratory efficiency, gas exchange, and balancing the nervous system.
So it's not just take a deep breath. It's this very precise rhythm. What's actually happening inside us when we hit that 5.5 rhythm? What are the benefits?
The benefits are honestly profound and widespread. When you consciously adopt this slower rhythm, you actively calm your nervous system. You shift it towards the parasympathetic side, the rest and restore mode.
Which most of us need more of, right? We live in fight or flight.
Exactly. We're chronically stuck in sympathetic overdrive, but when you breathe long and slow, the air reaches deeper into the lower parts of your lungs, and that's where nerves connected to the parasympathetic system are concentrated.
Ah, interesting.
So you trigger this cascade, release of feel-good chemicals like serotonin, oxytocin, deep relaxation. Your heart rate naturally slows down, blood pressure drops, even digestion improves. Compare that to the typical shallow, rapid chest breathing most people do when stressed that just keeps you locked in that stressed out, inefficient state. This slow breath also improves heart rate variability, which is great for heart health and stress resilience.
That's incredible. Such a simple change, such massive effects. And this isn't just a modern scientific finding, is it?
Yeah.
I heard this rhythm pops up in ancient practices too.
It does, and that's what makes it so compelling. It's like this universal physiological truth.
Yeah.
This 5.5-second rhythm mirrors breathing patterns found in ancient spiritual and meditative traditions all over the world.
Like what?
Well, think about chanting or reciting prayers. The rhythm of repeating something like the Ave Maria in Christianity or the Buddhist mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. It naturally guides people into the same approximate 5.5 in, 5.5 out pattern.
No way. Really?
Yeah. Studies have actually measured this. They recorded people chanting these different prayers and found it consistently increases oxygen to the brain, slows the heart, lowers blood pressure, brings calm. It creates this state of coherence where the heart, lungs, and brain all sync up and work together efficiently. So it's not just folklore, it's ancient wisdom being validated by modern science, a deep link between breath, spirituality, and our physiology.
And physically, how should we be doing this? Is it just about the timing or how we use our muscles?
Good question. Yes, the physical mechanics matter too. The key is diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, rather than shallow chest breathing.
Right, breathe from the belly.
Exactly. Many people, especially when stressed, just use their upper chest. They barely engage the diaphragm, which is our main breathing muscle. That leads to tension, inefficient breathing, even strains the heart because the lungs aren't expanding fully. But with diaphragmatic breathing, your belly gently rises as you inhale, falls as you exhale. This full movement uses the diaphragm properly, gets air deep into those lower lung lobes we mentioned, and maximizes all those calming parasympathetic benefits. It's just a more natural, efficient way to breathe.
That's a really practical tip. So for you listening, maybe just take a moment right now. Notice your breath. Is it fast and shallow, just in your chest? Or slow and deep, moving your belly? That awareness is the first step, isn't it?
Absolutely. That simple awareness is step one, bringing conscious attention to something usually unconscious. That's how you start to reclaim it.
Okay, so we need to breathe through our nose, slowly, deeply. But then there's this other piece, carbon dioxide. We're always taught CO2 is just waste gas, something to get rid of. But you're saying that might be wrong. That feels really counterintuitive.
It absolutely challenges what most of us learned in biology class, doesn't it? But yes, carbon dioxide is far, far more than just waste. It plays an absolutely crucial, kind of unsung hero role in how our bodies use oxygen. The key idea here is called the Bohr effect.
The Bohr effect. Okay.
What it basically explains is that you need sufficient levels of CO2 in your blood for oxygen to be released effectively from your red blood cells, to actually get delivered to your muscles, your organs, your brain, where it's needed for energy.
Hang on. So even if I'm breathing in loads of oxygen, if I don't have enough CO2, my cells could still be starved of oxygen because it's not getting released. That completely flips the script.
Exactly, you nailed it. It's not just about how much oxygen you take in, it's about how efficiently it gets delivered and used. Carbon dioxide is like the key that unlocks oxygen from hemoglobin, the molecule that carries it in your blood. Without enough CO2, the oxygen stays locked onto the hemoglobin, even if your blood is technically oxygen-rich. And this isn't some brand new idea either. Researchers like Yandell Henderson at Yale, way back in the 1930s, 40s, they figured this out.
Really? Back then?
Yeah. Henderson did tons of experiments. He found that breathing excessive oxygen, like pure oxygen, wasn't actually beneficial. It could even lead to oxygen deficiency at the cellular level by messing up the CO2 balance. He actually called CO2 the main hormone in the entire body, said it was produced by every tissue, acted on every organ. He even said, get this, carbon dioxide is a more fundamental component of living matter than oxygen.
Whoa! More fundamental than oxygen.
Yeah.
That's radical. So can we actually influence our CO2 levels, optimize this process?
Yes, definitely. And this is where conscious breathing techniques really shine. Things like breath-holding exercises, you find these in various forms of pranayama, ancient yogic breathing.
Holding your breath helps. Seems like the opposite of getting oxygen.
Well, when you hold your breath safely and consciously, you allow CO2 levels to build up slightly. This actually trains your body to become more efficient at using the oxygen it has. Over time, it boosts your tolerance to CO2, which leads to better endurance, better oxygen delivery overall. See, we have these things called chemoreceptors nerves that sense CO2 and pH levels and signal the brain. And these chemoreceptors, they're actually quite flexible, adaptable. By doing controlled breath holds, you gently challenge them, train them to be less reactive, more tolerant to CO2. Better CO2 tolerance means better oxygen release, better stamina, better cellular health.
Okay, that makes sense. Training the system. But this raises a critical question. If CO2 is so vital, what happens if we get rid of too much of it? What's the danger in that?
Now you're getting into the problem of overbreathing, hyperventilation, and it's more common than you think.
Right, overbreathing. It still feels so weird, doesn't it? We think more air, better, more oxygen, peak performance, all that. But you're saying breathing too much air can actually be harmful. That's a tough one to wrap your head around.
It absolutely can be harmful, yes. And it definitely challenges those ingrained ideas. Breathing too much hyperventilating, even subtly, is surprisingly common. And it has real, often unnoticed negative effects. The basic issue is simple. Breathing excessively throws off the balance of oxygen and CO2. You might feel like you're gulping in oxygen, but you're actually blowing off too much essential CO2. Even just breathing, say, 10 or 20% more air than your body actually needs for its metabolism at that moment, that can overwork your whole system and disrupt that crucial gas balance.
Okay, so if someone is chronically overbreathing, maybe without realizing it, what kind of signs might they notice? How would you know?
Well, you can even do a quick, careful test yourself. If you were to sit down and take, say, 20 or 30 really big, fast breaths, one after another, what would happen?
Oh, I guess it'd feel dizzy,
Yeah.
lightheaded.
Exactly. Dizziness, lightheadedness, maybe some anxiety creeping in, maybe even tingling in your fingers or toes.
Right. Why does that happen? Is it too much oxygen?
Paradoxically, no. It's actually from decreased circulation. Blowing off too much CO2 causes your blood vessels, especially the small ones in your extremities and brain, to constrict. Less blood flow.
Wow. So the dizziness is from less oxygen getting through because of too much breathing.
Precisely. And remember that mouth breathing experiment? The participants felt exhausted, anxious, unwell. That was directly linked to this gas imbalance from breathing too much too inefficiently. The body is basically signaling, stop, restore balance.
That's a really clear illustration. But what about the long-term effects? If someone just habitually breathes a bit too much day in, day out?
The long-term impact is significant. Chronically blowing off too much CO2 makes your blood pH rise, becoming more alkaline. Now, your body is smart. It has buffers, especially the kidneys, working hard to bring that pH back down to the optimal level, around 7.4, where cells function best.
Okay, so the body tries to compensate.
It does, but constantly making that effort can, over time, deplete essential minerals, potentially weaken bones, and just put a continuous strain on your kidneys and other systems. So, weirdly, breathing slower and allowing a bit more CO2 to stay in your system actually helps lower the blood pH slightly, back towards that optimal, slightly acidic range. It helps maintain balance without straining the system.
So this really points towards a less is more idea for breathing, doesn't it? Where did that come from? Is it scientifically supported?
Absolutely. Less is more is fundamental to healthy breathing. A key figure here was Konstantin Buteyko. He's sometimes called the godfather of less is more breathing.
Buteyko.
Yeah, a Ukrainian doctor back in the mid-20th century. He noticed that patients with things like asthma and high blood pressure consistently seemed to be overbreathing chronically. So he developed techniques specifically aimed at reducing breathing volume and rate, consciously breathing less.
And did it work?
Well, subsequent research has backed it up. There was a study in 2014, for example, showing asthma symptoms decreased significantly when patients maintained healthier CO2 levels by practicing reduced breathing. Many people with asthma who learn these techniques report huge improvements, needing less medication. It's quite powerful.
That's a really strong link to a condition like asthma.
Yeah.
What about anxiety? Does overbreathing connect to panic attacks and things like that?
Oh, definitely. It's a fascinating connection between physiology and psychology. We used to think anxiety was all in the head, right? But it has strong physical roots. High CO2 levels in certain brain areas can trigger anxiety responses, or rather, it's how our chemoreceptors react to those levels.
Okay.
But here's the good part. By training those chemoreceptors to be more flexible, more tolerant, like we talked about with breath holding, you can build real resilience against anxiety and panic. This is the idea behind CO2 therapy, which people have explored since the early 1900s. Controlled CO2 inhalation may sometimes help reset the system. Even that old trick of breathing into a paper bag during a panic attack.
Yeah.
It works by increasing CO2 intake, which helps calm the nervous system, though obviously proper diagnosis is key. The point is, controlled, slower breathing naturally increases your CO2 levels slightly, calms the system, and retrains your body's stress response.
It really feels like understanding this gas balance is fundamental. And
Right.
it totally challenges that simple idea of just take big, deep breaths all the time. It's more subtle than that.
Exactly. It's about efficiency and balance, not just raw volume, optimizing the whole process for cellular health and nervous system calm.
So if we're aiming for optimal breathing, beyond the rhythm in the nose,
Yeah.
what about our actual lungs? The physical machinery. How important is lung capacity itself, and can we actually do anything about it, especially as we get older?
Our lungs are absolutely vital, obviously. And their capacity, it's actually a remarkably powerful predictor of health and longevity. Seriously, research shows lung capacity often predicts lifespan better than genetics, diet, or even exercise habits.
Better than genetics or diet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Bigger, more efficient lungs generally correlate with longer, healthier lives. It reflects the overall strength of your respiratory and cardiovascular systems.
That's pretty compelling. But doesn't lung capacity just inevitably decline with age? Is there anything we can really do about that?
It does tend to decrease naturally, yeah. That's a fact of aging. You might lose, say, 12% between age 30 and 50, maybe 30% or more by age 80. And this is the crucial but, that decline isn't set in stone. It's not entirely irreversible. You can absolutely preserve lung capacity and even increase it with conscious effort.
How?
Well, look at freedivers. They train intensely and develop extraordinary lung capacity, way beyond average.
Right, they're amazing.
But you don't need to be an extreme athlete. Simpler things help too. Regular stretching, some people mention things like the 5 Tibetan rites, consistent aerobic exercise like brisk walking. These can make a real difference and fight that age-related decline.
Okay, so movement helps. What about the breath itself? Is it just about inhaling more, or is exhaling important too?
Exhaling is critically important, maybe even more important than inhaling in some ways. Many people focus only on getting more air in. But fully exhaling, getting all that stale air out, that's vital for lung health and capacity.
Why is that?
Think of your lungs like a sponge. To soak up the most fresh water, you first need to squeeze out all the old, dirty water, right?
Makes sense.
Same with your lungs. You need to expel the stale, CO2-rich air completely to make room for a full, fresh inhale of oxygen-rich air. There was this choir director, Carl Stoff, back in the mid-20th century. He worked with people with severe emphysema. He focused obsessively on teaching them to exhale fully, using the diaphragm, and he saw incredible improvements in their breathing and health. His technique was called breathing coordination. It's about ensuring a complete air exchange, maximizing oxygen uptake, and really clearing out the lungs. It's an overlooked part of the equation.
That brings us back to the whole physical system working together. Is there really a connection between how we breathe and something like our spine, our posture?
This is one of the most fascinating connections, I think. Really shows how holistic it all is. There's an amazing story about Katharina Schroff, early 1900s, Germany. As a teenager, she had severe scoliosis, a bad sideways curve in her spine.
Right, scoliosis.
Instead of just accepting the usual treatments, she basically figured out how to fix it herself, using breath. She developed specific breathing exercises that targeted the curved parts of her torso, essentially breathing into the concave areas to push the spine back towards alignment.
She cured her scoliosis with breathing. Seriously.
Apparently so. And she was so successful, she opened an institute and helped hundreds of others with the same condition using these breath techniques. There's even a theory that maybe some scoliosis starts partly because of uneven breathing, habitually breathing more into one side of the chest than the other, causing a slight imbalance that gets worse over time. It just powerfully shows how breath influences our entire physical structure, not just our insides.
That really hammers it home. Breathing isn't just air in, air out. It's connected to our bones, our muscles, our posture, our overall structure and health. It's truly foundational.
It really is. It's the bridge, connecting our internal state to our physical structure, our energy, our longevity, everything.
So we usually think of breathing as automatic, right? Like our heart beating. Our body just handles it. But what you seem to be saying is it's actually this incredibly powerful, controllable function, like a switch for our whole nervous system. That gives us way more control than we think.
It's a profound realization, isn't it, that we have this level of agency. Breathing is unique because it's both involuntary, it happens without us thinking, and consciously controllable. And that conscious control, it's not trivial. It's a direct line, a powerful interface with our autonomic nervous system, the ANS. So yes, absolutely, our breath acts like a power switch. We can use it to deliberately influence almost every internal organ, our mood, our stress levels, our entire state of being, and it's free. It's always there.
A power switch for the nervous system. So we can actually choose, just by breathing differently, whether to turn on the calm down system or the stress up system. How does that work?
Pretty much, yeah. The ANS has those two main branches working in opposition. You've got the parasympathetic system, that's your rest and restore, feed and breed mode, calm, relaxed, focused on digestion and recovery. When you take those long, slow, deep diaphragmatic breaths we talked about, you actively stimulate this system.
Right. The 5.5-second breath.
Exactly. That triggers the release of calming neurochemicals, feel-good hormones like serotonin, oxytocin. Heart rate slows, digestion improves, you feel relaxed. And remember, the nerves for this system are concentrated in the lower lungs, so that deep belly breathing is key to activating it. Then there's the sympathetic system, your fight or flight response. Ready for action. Short, quick, shallow breaths, especially mouth breathing, that tends to kick the system into gear.
Stress breathe.
Yep. Sends stimulating signals out. Heart rate up, blood pressure up, body ready for danger. Essential for survival, but disastrous if it's chronically switched on because of poor breathing habits. So yes, by consciously changing your breath pattern, you are literally choosing which side of the ANS to emphasize in that moment.
And how does the vagus nerve fit into this? I hear that mentioned a lot with stress and chronic health issues.
The vagus nerve is absolutely central to all of this. It's like the superhighway of the parasympathetic system. It runs from your brainstem all the way down, connecting to your heart, lungs, gut, pretty much all your major internal organs. It's the main communication line. Intentional, slow, deep breathing directly stimulates the vagus nerve. This improves what's called vagal tone, which basically means how well this calming system is functioning. Better vagal tone means better communication between brain and body, better stress regulation, better emotional resilience, better physical health overall. Think about it. A lot of seemingly unrelated chronic problems, weird tingling, gut issues, rapid heart rate, even things like diabetes or erectile dysfunction can sometimes stem from poor communication or dysregulation in this vagal network. So, improving vagal tone through breath work, it can genuinely help resolve or lessen a huge range of symptoms by improving the body's own self-regulation.
It sounds like this incredible free built-in tool for managing almost everything, yet it feels completely overlooked, especially by, say, mainstream medicine. Why isn't this taught everywhere?
It's a really good question and kind of frustrating, honestly. This profound control we have through breath is massively underutilized, often dismissed. Why? Maybe paradoxically because it's too simple, too cheap. It doesn't involve fancy drugs or expensive machines or procedures that generate revenue, so it might seem less serious, less scientific somehow. Dr. Andrew Weil, who's been teaching this stuff for decades, often lamented the lack of rigorous research and instruction. He had a mentor, Dr. Robert Fulford, an osteopath, who called breathing the master function of the body. Fulford believed restricted breathing was the root of tons of chronic problems. His treatments often focused on improving breathing mechanics, and he apparently got amazing results, even clearing up chronic ear infections in kids just by helping them breathe better through their nose and diaphragm. Yet despite stories like that, it's still not really part of standard medical training. Doctors are rushed, right? See 20 patients an hour. They just don't have the time or often the training to sit down and teach someone how to breathe slowly and consciously over multiple sessions. It's a gap in the system.
What's really fascinating here is we all carry this incredible power switch with us.
Yeah.
Everywhere, all the time, totally free. And we hardly ever realize its potential. It's empowering, really.
It truly is. It speaks to the body's amazing inherent wisdom, its capacity to heal and optimize itself if we just learn how to work with it, starting with the breath.
Okay, so we've covered the basics: nose breathing, slow rhythm, CO2 balance, conscious control. If that's also transformative, what about pushing things further? What happens when people intentionally use really intense breathing methods? Is there value in going beyond just calm and balanced?
That's a great area to explore. And yes, there's a whole other category of advanced, intentional breathing techniques. These are quite different from the gentle, calming breaths we've mostly talked about. They deliberately push the body into extreme states. The idea is often to purposefully stress the system, cardiovascular, nervous system in a controlled way to build resilience and strength. But importantly, these aren't for casual use. They need to be approached safely, often with guidance. Voluntarily pushing limits for short periods can be transformative, but it requires respect and understanding.
Intentionally stressing the body to make it stronger, like exercise, but with breath.
Kind of, yeah. A good example is Tumo, or inner fire meditation.
Tumo, like the monks who can dry wet sheets on their backs in the cold.
Exactly, that's the classic image. It's an ancient Tibetan technique, and methods like Wim Hof's are modern variations. Typically, it involves rounds of deep, rapid breathing-controlled hyperventilation, essentially followed by extended breath holds, usually on the exhale. Repeat several times.
And what does that do?
It consciously triggers the sympathetic nervous system fight or flight for a prolonged period. And one major effect is generating significant internal body heat. That's how those monks survived in the Himalayas. But beyond heat, practiced safely, it can boost the immune system, increase stress resilience, improve lung capacity, and bring about intense mental clarity. The principle is, short bursts of intense, controlled stress teach the body to adapt, get stronger, and then crucially learn to switch off that stress response more effectively afterward.
That's incredible. Consciously controlling body heat. What about techniques focused more on the mind, maybe altering consciousness.
Right. Holotropic breathwork is a powerful example there, developed by psychiatrist Stanislav Grof. It uses sustained, heavy, rapid breathing in a specific way to induce non-ordinary states of consciousness. People sometimes describe hallucinatory-like experiences, similar to psychedelic.
How does that work? Just breathing fast?
It drastically reduces blood flow to parts of the brain, sometimes, by up to 40% quite quickly. This sends massive stress signals through the body and seems to unlock different states of awareness. Groff used it successfully to treat patients with deep-seated anxiety, depression, even schizophrenia. It seemed to facilitate profound psychological healing and insight. The exact mechanisms are complex, but the results for mental health and even boosting immunity in healthy people were pretty compelling.
That level of control over physiology and psychology is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Are there documented cases of people taking this to almost superhuman levels?
Oh, absolutely. There's the famous case of Swami Rama in the 1970s. He was studied under strict lab conditions at the Menninger Clinic, and he demonstrated extraordinary voluntary control over things everyone thought were totally involuntary.
Like what?
He could dramatically slow his heart rate down, then speed it way up, reportedly, to 300 beats per minute. He could change the temperature of different parts of his hand by several degrees. He could consciously produce specific brainwave patterns, alpha, theta, delta on demand.
Just through breath and focus?
Primarily, yes. Breath and visualization. It completely challenged Western science at the time. It pointed towards this idea of prana, or a life force, that Eastern traditions always talked about, deeply connected to breath. It showed our potential for self-regulation is far greater than we usually imagine.
Amazing potential. But it also sounds like these intense methods could be risky if you don't know what you're doing.
Extremely risky. I really need to emphasize that. These advanced techniques are not for everyone. People with heart conditions, high blood pressure, epilepsy, pregnant women, they should definitely avoid these. They create intense physiological shifts. Mastery takes time, gradual buildup, careful practice, ideally with an experienced guide. You have to listen to your body. Pushing too hard, too fast can be dangerous or just overwhelming. And it's worth remembering, many of these powerful techniques, like pranayama, have roots going back thousands of years in Hindu, Chinese, Buddhist texts. They understood the power of breath, this life force, but they also understood the need for careful, respectful practice.
This brings up a really interesting question. If this knowledge about breathing's power has been around for so long, for millennia, why did we lose it? Why isn't it common knowledge now? What changed?
That's where the story connects back to our modern lifestyle, our diet, and tragically, how those changes reshaped our very anatomy and led us away from this ancient wisdom.
Right. If our breathing de-evolved and we drifted away from these optimized practices, what specific parts of modern life cause that? You mentioned anatomy before. How does our diet fit in? How can food affect breathing?
Our modern diet has played a huge, often unappreciated role in this decline. The main issue is the shift towards soft, processed foods. Think about it. Most of what many people eat today requires very little chewing compared to the tougher, more fibrous diets our ancestors ate.
Yeah, lots of mushy stuff.
Exactly. And that lack of vigorous chewing, that lack of masticatory stress, especially during childhood when the face and jaw are developing, it stunts the growth of the jawbones. We end up with smaller mouths, underdeveloped jaws.
Just from eating soft food, our jaws don't grow properly.
That's wild. How does that directly mess with breathing?
It's a perfect example of how everyday habits have huge long-term effects. Smaller mouths, underdeveloped jaws mean narrower airways. Simple physics. The nasal passages are more constricted, the back of the throat is more crowded. This makes proper nasal breathing much harder and directly contributes to problems like snoring, disturbed sleep, and obstructive sleep apnea. The physical space just isn't there. The bones and muscles of the face and throat just don't get the workout they need to develop fully without all that chewing and biting. And it starts really early. Studies show kids who are breastfed, which requires more muscular effort from the baby, tend to have better jaw development and lower rates of snoring and apnea later on compared to bottle-fed kids.
Wow. Is there solid historical evidence linking diet changes to these jaw changes and breathing problems?
Oh yes, very strong evidence. A key figure was Weston A. Price.
Weston Price. Yeah, a dentist back in the 1930s. He traveled the world studying isolated populations who still ate their traditional indigenous diets, lots of natural, unprocessed foods, often tough, requiring lots of chewing. He compared them to elated groups who had adopted modern Western diets, processed flour, sugar, canned goods, soft stuff.
And what did he find?
The difference was stark. The groups on traditional diets had amazing teeth, naturally straight, wide arches, almost no cavities despite no modern dentistry. They had broad faces, well-developed jaws, and very few respiratory problems.
These are the ones on modern diets.
Rampant problems. Crooked, crowded teeth, narrow faces, underdeveloped jaws, much higher rates of breathing issues. Price concluded that these modern processed foods, often lacking essential vitamins and minerals too, directly cause stunted growth, specifically in the face, jaws, and airways. And we see this confirmed when we look at ancient skulls, wide airways, straight teeth versus more recent ones showing that decline.
That's such a clear link between what we eat and how we breathe. But okay, for someone listening now who maybe has narrower airways or a smaller jaw, is it too late? Can anything be done to reverse or improve it in adulthood?
That's the hopeful part. Emerging research suggests our bones, even facial bones, have more plasticity, more ability to change than we used to think, even in adults.
Really? Bones can change shape?
It seems so. It might be possible to actually correct mouth shape, stimulate some bone regrowth, and reshape the jaw even later in life. There are methods like specialized mouth retainers, one called the homeoblock is mentioned. The idea is they gently stimulate the right kind of growth. Also, consciously increasing chewing, maybe incorporating more tough, natural foods or even specific chewing exercises might help stimulate those bones and muscles. The author of Breath actually tried one of these mouthpieces for several weeks and reported measurable widening of his airways, jaw realignment, even a bit of new facial bone growth. It suggests our bodies can adapt and remodel much more than we assumed. We might be able to reclaim some of that lost anatomical function.
That really drives home how these seemingly small daily habits, what we eat, how much we chew starting from childhood, have these massive, lasting effects on our basic physiology, right down to our ability to breathe easily. It's all connected.
It really is an intricate ecosystem, a clear sign that our modern drive for convenience has had some pretty serious unintended consequences for our fundamental biology.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the history, the science, the anatomy, the techniques. Bringing it all together, what does this mean for us right now in our daily lives? How do we take all these incredible insights and actually use them to live a more balanced, healthier life starting today?
It really boils down to two things: cultivating awareness and then consistently integrating simple practices. The absolute first step, as we've touched on a few times, is just becoming more mindful of your breath throughout the day. Start noticing. When does it get shallow? When do you catch yourself breathing through your mouth? When does stress make it rapid and uneven? That awareness is the bedrock. You can't change a pattern until you see it clearly.
Right. Awareness first. Then what? What are some easy practical tools people can start using right away?
Several really accessible ones. That coherent breathing, the 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out, is powerful and simple. Practice it for just a few minutes, maybe morning and night, or before something stressful. It recalibrates your nervous system.
Okay, the 5.5 rule. What else?
Humming. Seriously. Just humming a tune you like.
Humming. How does that help?
Remember nitric oxide. Humming has been shown to increase nitric oxide production in your sinuses by up to 15 times.
15 times.
Yeah, it's a massive boost. Great for your immune system, helps fight off viruses, improves circulation. Super easy, feels good too. Also, keeping your nasal passages clear is obviously key for easy nasal breathing. Saline rinses, like using a neti pot, can be great if you have congestion or allergies. Even just steam a hot shower, a humidifier, or carefully leaning over a bowl of hot water helps moisturize and open things up, especially good before sleep. And don't forget hydration. Drinking enough water helps keep mucus thin and clear naturally. Simple, but effective.
Those are great practical tips. What about the mental side again? For something like anxiety, how does breath control really help manage that day to day?
It's incredibly direct. By consciously controlling your breath, especially slowing it down and ensuring nasal breathing, you stabilize those CO2 levels we talked about. This directly reduces feelings of panic and builds resilience. Remember training the chemoreceptors. Regular practice of slower breathing makes your body less likely to overreact to stress signals. It helps break that feedback loop where anxiety causes shallow breathing, which then makes the anxiety worse. You gain control over the physiological part of the anxiety response.
It really feels like we're rediscovering something ancient, a kind of lost art that science is now catching up with and validating.
That's exactly it. So many of these principles are ancient wisdom, deeply understood in various cultures for millennia. Now, science is providing the mechanisms, the data, the validation. It gives us this amazing evidence-based toolkit for self-regulation that's incredibly powerful, accessible, and free. It's just Tragic, it got law after dismissed along the way. And as we discussed, because doctors often don't have the time to teach these things properly, there's a real need for skilled breathing coaches or therapists who can help people relearn and integrate these vital practices. It's about empowering people with their own biology.
So for you listening, remember, you have this incredible free tool built right in. The power to change how you feel, how you function, starts with awareness, and then just consistent, conscious practice, one breath at a time. It's simple, but revolutionary.
Just consider this. How many things in your life do you just assume are automatic, outside your control, when maybe, just maybe, you hold the power to consciously influence them, starting right now with your very next breath?
This was it on today's book, guys. And guys, kindly subscribe and follow us for more such insights on various books. And also, do not forget to join our social media community to stay in touch and get updates.